My high sleep for the 8. LeoCoys and KTK. Lucas on the flight, causing turbulence. Causing waves on our way to the confluence. New voice for the fans. From the pitch to the stands. My high looks than the South Bank lads. LeoCoys and a homie crashed. Hold up, what's this? A raft on the water to the confluence. Yeah. It's chance, I'm bound up, rounds, I love the head to the wars. If it's this, you're off the sea, free aid, this time is now. Locals on the jump to hold it down. Like the stream and do 5 stars. The mile high hearts burn, crash the car.
Yes, my homies, welcome back to the Confluence. I'm joined by my homie KTK. My name is LeoCoys. Crash, how you doing, my homie? Welcome back to another episode.
I know, episode 2 of this season, which I think is exciting. I refer to this season because we did you streamed with almost all of last season, which was great. We're trying to get all those posted for any of you sickos out there who want to go back and re-look at or re-listen to anything that happened last season to catch up. But I'm having a great day. Today was a long day for work and kid stuff. But I'm definitely happy here to chat with you and just get more PIDs out there. It's been an interesting week. We launched the first episode, which I appreciate everyone and the response and listening. We're getting a good start to the following, which is great. But we're here with episode 2, which is exciting.
Yeah, absolutely, homie. And just to echo that, homie, work was long and I'm still on daddy duty. So at any given time, if anything is to happen, Crash, you're going to have to take over 100% for the time. But all good. Homie,
one thing before we get started. I hope everyone liked the intro song that we've got started at the beginning of this. Obviously, we're recording this now, so we didn't hear that song ourselves, but you listeners out there would have heard it. So I hope you enjoyed it. Leo has updated us with some awesome beats that I personally love. So I enjoyed that, and so thank you for putting that together.
Yeah, cheers, bro. Good shout, my homie. Like you just said, we didn't play that in the intro. That's actually post-production, so you guys would have heard it now. Big up. But yeah, before we go any further, Crash, we're also updated where you guys can find this stuff at. We're basically now wherever you can get your podcasts in. We're more than likely there. And just one more time before, it's at the Confluence Podcast. And the internet's a tricky thing, Crash. You have to kind of help it out. And if you put in the Confluence Podcast and maybe tack on Rapids there, you're guaranteed to find it like that even faster. So big up to all the people that followed us. We have a few people on the Instagram page as well. So big up to everybody. Yeah, so without further ado, my homie, let's get into it. Crash, today we had the Rapids come out with some media availability for the big homie Matt Wells, and you and I kind of were both eager for something like this to happen, and it just so happens to drop on the day that we're going to record. Let's dive right into just your general thoughts on the Matt Wells media availability.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. First, I want to say thank you to the comms team who I don't know if you listened, but if you happen to listen to last week's episode, I did ask for them to pump up the volume on the questions to Coach, which they did. So bravo to you guys. From the fans' perspective, it was really beneficial to hear what was being asked. So we had some good context there. So thank you for doing that. But I actually was really inspired by it. I thought, there's been some good content that the Rapids have been pushing out with that video. I think with the new Elevate program that they're going to have posted soon, with that little intro of Matt Wells kind of talking about taking the team to MLS Cup and the different roads and seeing the buy-in from the players. So it seems like they're getting a good culture built, and the players are are enjoying at least the mentality. They might not be enjoying the physicality at the current moment, which
Mm,
who knows?
mhm.
I sometimes I enjoy a physical challenge from time to time, but it definitely seems like Matt is putting the team through a pretty significant challenge on the pitch daily to get them up to the physicality he's hoping for.
Yeah, and just to kind of touch on that clip that you're talking about, it's a shame it was such a short clip that the Rapids put out of it's kind of what Melt Wells is kind of just what kind of gearing up the lads and kind of just pumping them up with some sort of motivational chat there. And he's just telling them like just, we're right here at the beginning stages, but at the end of the road is that MLS Cup. And you could just see we were talking about this before, Crash, the buy-in from Zach Steffen, just his stare back at the gaffer while he's talking, and it's good to see, how you said the buy-in. Zach Steffen is one of these key players that you're gonna want the most buy-in from because he's been key to the Rapids. I'm gonna say success, but he's been key to what the Rapids have at least been able to try and do, at least this time that he's been here. So um good to see the buy-in from the players Crash. And not only that, it's good to see whatever type of media availability. That was actually during practice. Today's video that came out was more questions, right? A lot of questions asked. Some good questions, honestly. I'm bad with the names. I don't know who they were, but some good questions asked there by a couple of interviewers. What would you say, Crash, was the most, I guess, interesting thing or the thing that stuck out the most for you that Matt Wells, I guess, either talked about or said?
Yeah, no, I think just to kind of start, we got a little insight into the kind of mysterious scrimmage that happened at the end of last week, which they had originally kind of logged on their preseason scrimmage schedule, but didn't really give us any information on who they played. Whether Matt was supposed to divulge it or not, he did mention Miami, which I thought was interesting. Um, so I could see where maybe they were keeping that a little under wraps. But it's cool. It's really cool to see that they were able to get some good scrimmage against a good team. They didn't divulge any score lines or anything like that. Outside of they did score a couple multiple goals during that scrimmage, which is great to hear. It's nice to hear that we're finally getting some execution in that final third. And he did mention kind of the attacking patterns were the things that he's really trying to accomplish with the team. So I think they're really starting to fundamentally understand his system, which I think is a positive thing. And then I think the other key factor of that was he mentioned that that each half or each team did get 60 minutes rather than the 45 from the previous scrimmage. So, they're really trying to log in those minutes to get a good foundation going into the first game of the season. So, all of that being said, we did get some good insights, even if we haven't gotten full clips of what happened during that preseason scrimmage against Miami. So that's was good information to hear. So I'm happy to see that we're starting to kind of get some fruit for the labor that they're putting in.
Yeah, bro, I agree. A couple of things I guess that stood out, or you could say stood out for me, were one, and this is really not going to mean too much, Crash. He looks very comfortable. Matt Wells does. Like he looks like he's up for the challenge that it is. Doesn't look like he's here kind of on a any type of like a holiday, if you will. It doesn't look like he feels I guess it's very early on, you know what I mean? But he doesn't look like he feels any type of stress about the situation. It looks like he welcomes it, if anything. He looked very relaxed in the press conference, joking with the people that were asking. Not joking, but he looks like he's building that foundation, that relationship with the people asking him the questions. So, you know, he just looks like he plays the part, bro. And the way he's talking, the things that he's saying, for me, the way he delivers his messages, for sure um, they resonate, bro. I like what I'm hearing from him. Um, he said how he really liked what he was seeing from some of these younger guys. They asked him about Darren Yappy, said how he's liking how what he sees from him. He even came out and said he likes what he's seeing from players like Jackson Travis. Um, who else did he mention? Kamani Stewart Baines. Um, the young guy that we have from Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know what
Wayne
his
Frederick.
Wayne Frederick. Yeah, Wayne Frederick. These are young kids that are in our lineup, bro, that if pushed in the right direction, if I guess guided in the right direction, crash. And we touched on this last episode, homie. Matt Wells has a history of working with these younger kids, you know what I mean? So um and I'll even before we move on to anything else later on, don't let me forget something. So that I won't say it now, but before we go further, I have to say it. But um Crash, it looks like he's definitely gonna put faith into these younger kids. I mean, to be fair, it's not like we have a roster full of experienced players. I mean, he's gonna have to juggle what he can with what he has, you know what I mean? So watch this space, chat. He's gonna put faith into the younger kids, and they're gonna be the ones that are gonna have to either swim or sink. You know what I mean? That it's gonna be the ball's gonna be in their core because um Matt Wells will give you and this is just based off of what he's done in the past. Matt Wells will offer those resources. It's definitely up to the player to accept them and to embrace them. So um I'm excited for the youth part of that. Um he also said how he's been challenging these players a lot. They've been having to do a lot of practicing without the ball, with the ball not even on the pitch. You know what I mean? They're doing a lot of physical stuff. I know. I said this, about the Tottenham connection. Preseason, you run. That's what they've been known for. Like you run. Ange Postecoglou made his team run. You know, they run, they run and run. And I'm not surprised that Matt Wells has implemented this in his tactics as well so early. And even what really stood out for me in that interview or in his questioning was he came out and said the players have had, some tough times. They had a long day today, Crash. They didn't even know the hardest day was going to still be, they were still gonna go out and run some more. And he's like, the hardest practice that they're gonna have, it's gonna be this one coming up. So just and what did he say, Crash? And this is where I'm gonna see what some of these players are made of. He's putting them to the gauntlet, homie, and um, that's good, right, bro? You want to build up the strong, and I guess in a sense, somewhat weed out the weak.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree, and I was actually really happy to hear him say that, because if he really wants to physically dominate other players and other teams on the pitch, he's going to need that mentality. And what he was saying was, they're putting in, a full effort, and then they end up having to put in more. And I loved when he was talking about, where other teams might end, their training. It's, they go to the line and then they run, or it's not over when they think it's over. And I think that was the key of it. Just because, that the idea there that they're pushing themselves to the physical limit, and then when they're at that limit getting pushed further, it's only going to make them mentally tougher in the end. And you can see it, getting the buy-in on some of the footage. And one of the other things too I really really enjoy about Matt is his honesty. And he's not, sugarcoating, oh, it's all perfect and it's all, unicorns and rainbows out there. We've got, like, he's saying, no, like, this is hard. They're learning. They're not getting it right away. There might not be exactly where I want them to be, where we're getting there, right? And he's not necessarily calling anyone out specifically, but he's not doing that either. He's saying that, they'll get there. They're working hard, but at least putting them on notice to say, hey, I still need more from you. So I really enjoyed the fact that he isn't hiding behind positivity, or hiding behind some, fairy tale that he's trying to sell. He's really kind of going into it and getting dirty and showing it the way it is, which is what I think that honesty is what a fan really wants to hear, right? You don't want to hear that it's all perfect and not understand what's going behind the scenes. If it's not going well, you're not getting what you need out of your players. We want to hear that. I mean, it just shows the accountability that he has to the team and what he's trying to share with them, and their accountability to learn it and to live up to it. So personally, I love that, which I'm excited to hear more. It'll be interesting to see how that takes shape throughout the season, especially when results either come or go. And if he can keep that kind of honesty at the forefront, so it'll be interesting to see. But I'm excited to see more.
That's funny you say that about the honesty because he really was, right? They asked him about a couple of the players and he said, "Look, this player needs to train a bit more." What do you say? A bit more mature. He needs to be a bit more mature in practice or something like that. I forget what player they were asking him about, but he was flat out said, "Look, but that'll happen with the young players." You know what I mean? So, um, all good signs and all good things, like you said, that you want to hear from players. And I think it is such a different shift in the type of locker room vibes, I guess, or mentality going from a guy like Chris Armis, who probably was more like, you know, definitely I got the vibe that Chris Armis definitely would take the blame for anything. He put it on his shoulders, you know what I mean? And these players had that bromance, if you will, with Armis. And I think now with Matt Wells, yeah, they see the difference. And I put this underneath of the comments on the YouTube page for the Rapids video. Underneath of the interview, I put he's determined, determined. You know what I mean? I cannot wait to see the outcomes with Matt Wells. But yeah, it's gonna take some time. One thing, and what I told you I wanted to tell you before I forgot. At the end of the video Crash, I don't know if you picked up, but he mentioned R2. He mentioned, he mentioned personally going and checking out the R2 matches or something like that, and that's something I don't think I'm not aware, I'm not sure that Armis really took too much interest in, or that Armis took too much, um I never heard anything about him being at the R2 matches or even going and seeing. And I guess my question to you, Crash, how much would you know, or do you how much of the Rapids first team system is parallel and tied into the system played through R2? Like, is there a good correlation between the two teams? Like, does can and I'm asking you because I really haven't seen it that much, but do these R2 players really play the same system that the first team is trying to play? That way, the translation or the gap isn't that big when they make the jump. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because again, I'm going to touch on this again. In Matt Wells' previous jobs, he's been key in helping some of these academy players make that leap into the first team. And at
Yeah.
his
Well,
previous job, it was kind of harder because the first team philosophy was never the same as the academy. Now, I don't know if that's the same here, but he said, Crash, at the end of the video, I don't know if you caught, but he said, I'm gonna be catching some games at the Rapids too. And that's what got me thinking, hey, is he gonna try and bridge that gap between the young folks? I say younger folks, the R2 and the first team. What are your thoughts on that, Crash?
yeah, no, I did catch that, and I thought it was interesting because some of the information we did get is that his assistant coaches, at least one is there, one should be there shortly, which I think was good. But that also led into his conversation about the his support he's had from the R2 coaches leading into getting his new assistants there. So he's been really working well, as with Eric Boucher, who's the R2 coach, head coach. And he said he was his assistant really for these first couple weeks, which has been great. And they had some really honest conversations about philosophy and good, just like if you've ever been a soccer coach and being able to, talk shop with other coaches, it's probably one of the funnest parts about being a coach. I have to be honest, just because you're talking soccer the whole day and coming up with this and that and asking questions about why you go about certain things. And, it allows you to kind of poke holes in your own ideology, and kind of approach, which is really fun if you're a coach, which I thought was really good. But I think he also mentioned that they were really talking about how much of that first team philosophy is going to trickle down into the R2. So that way, and if you didn't catch it, he did mention if a player is going to play up or down. So I think he was saying that he expects that that some of the first team to be playing in R2, and they want to make sure that they're ready to do either one, so that you're not in the first team learning a system and then going into the second team and realizing that you're lost. And so he wants his players to be able to contribute in R2 if they're there, and then he wants the R2 players to be able to contribute if they're playing, for the first team. So, how much of that philosophy that translates it will be, I say, will to be determined. But it sounds like they're going to be relatively closely or closer aligned maybe than they have in years past. I can't say that they were much different last year. I didn't have a whole lot of, I watched some of the games, but I can't say that they were the same. I think they were relatively similar, but different system, and philosophies. So we'll see. We'll see how it kind of turns out. But I was interested and intrigued by some of the notes he had mentioned.
Yeah, Crash. And he also didn't shy away from mentioning the fact that reinforcement was needed, and that I don't remember like his exact words, but did he not mention that like we're still in the market, like we're still going to try and make some moves and we're still going to try and make something happen? So I guess that's
Yep.
reassuring, right? That the board is, I guess gonna back him and show some intent right away and give him some better tools, if you will, to start the season. But we talked about this last episode, Crash. If that's gonna happen, it would be better to happen sooner than later. But real quick, Crash, what are your thoughts on that? Like, hey, he basically came out and said that we're still in the market and things should basically still happen.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a good point. And he'd mentioned it in the last conversation he had last week that, once when kind of the announcement that Cole was leaving, he had mentioned that, more was still needed. And he did mention it here again, which I thought was really positive. I think we all know that. And it'll be interesting as the European window closed, on the second. A couple days ago. So I think, that is important to note that, you know, and I think with the information that popped out today with the GAM trade with Chicago, with trading away those two international slots, which I think puts us at just what we need, um, shows that we're not going to be reaching out in the international market, at least unless somebody got a green card. That we're going to be looking domestically to find that, which it would make more sense to me. I think with the way that visas are taking time,
Yeah.
getting a player integrated in the system, that a domestic player or somebody who's played in the league consistently is somebody they're going to be looking for, which will be interesting. So I'm excited to see what happens. And he did. I kind of lost my train of thought there for the players he was talking about. He did mention that not one position was being looked at. He said that he's asked the recruiters or the scouting department to really find the best players in all positions, to allow him to make that decision, which I thought was interesting. He's not saying, "Oh, I need fullbacks or I need wingers or I need strikers." He was definitely saying, "Give it to everybody. I want to see what's out there and what's available, and what we think, and then we can make that determination on what's best for the team with what we have available." So I like that. That just shows that he's looking at all angles to try to add quality to this team, and I just hope the front office can provide it. And I think that's the biggest question is we've seen it for years where, we go after a certain kind of particular type of player, young, potential. I like to think of them more as lotto tickets or scratch offs before more than anything. It's like, hey, it looks promising on the outside, and then you scratch it off, and you either have a winner or you don't. And unfortunately for the Rapids, as of the past couple years, outside of maybe one or two little lotto tickets here and there, a lot of them have been duds. So I'm hoping that whatever moves we make in the next week or so, or next couple weeks, that they really are positive, progressions for the team rather than just another roster slot filled.
Mm, let's go. Look, Crash. I guess moving on from the Matt Wells made media availability, and I guess what we thought about that. Um, on the last episode, we kind of knew this was gonna happen. It just wasn't official yet, but since it has been made official, Cole Bassett left, not left, but got traded. Um, and like we said, we kind of knew it was gonna happen, Crash, but now that it's official, um, what are your thoughts, homie? Just to put some context, he was traded to the Timbers. The Rapids will receive 2.65 million, and I seen somewhere that goes uh to like 3.5 plus
Yeah.
if he could reach some add-ons or something like that. And it says that we receive some sort of a future sell-on percentage.
Mhm. Yeah. No.
Moses Cap, homegrown player, with record minutes, goals, assists. Um, what do you think, Crash? I mean, we did kind of touch on this last episode, but just now that it is official,
Yeah. I
uh,
think I think for me, the official nature of it, which means that he's getting all of the Timbers press. He's wearing a Portland jersey. He carrying an axe. All the things that you do as a Portland Timbers player. It really sucks, to be honest. Like, you see Cole wearing that and doing that. It's like, really, like that. And I get it. It's part of the game. Players moving around, but he's um, you know he's always been a Rapid. Big fan favorite, and being a homegrown, he's something, somebody my kids look up to. you know Even today, my wife texted me, and she is not a massive sports fan. She goes with us to the game. She enjoys the experience, but she's not following the ins and outs of everything. She leaves that to me, and I usually have a chat with my daughter and kids about things like that. But even she texted me today, and she goes, "Cole Bassett got traded." And I jokingly replied, "Yeah, you should listen to our podcast." Uh, um,
that's very right.
but yeah, it was just one of those things where it's like, even my wife's picking up on that. I mean, she knew who he was. She was a fan of his, and even a casual fan is going to be sad to see him go. Which I thought, said really all it needed to be said there. So, I wish him the best of luck. But it's definitely going to be tough to see him wearing a not wearing a burgundy kit. That's for sure.
Yeah. What about the money that we're getting for him? Is for you, is it worth it, Crash?
Um,
Not
it
not not
depends.
asking not asking you if okay, not asking if the board go and no, I'm just saying the amount that they're giving us, plus, I mean, I don't know how the add-ons work. Just for what its face value, homie, is it worth it?
You know what? I'm gonna say probably is. And the
Mm.
reason why I say that is hearing what Matt Wells's philosophy is and the things that he's doing with his players right now and putting them through a situation and seeing maybe some of the content that the team's putting out and the buy-in that the players are being required to put in. I'm kind of feeling maybe Cole was not buying into it. And that I have no information on this. I'm kind of thinking that maybe he was just ready for a change.
Mhm.
And if he wasn't going to completely buy into Matt Wells' system, then it was to our benefit that he did move on. I think with that being said, Matt was very appreciative of him as a player and had good things to say. So this is just my take on it. No real information there. But I could see where he was competing in a crowded midfield. I think he probably had the best quality of the majority of them. But at the end of the day, if you're going to look at the system as what it is and what they're being asked to do, and you're not 100% bought in, you're going to be the first to go. And so maybe that
Yeah.
their sign, which made sense at that point. So
Yep. I could totally I could totally see that. And I I don't I don't know, like, if we're talking figures, Crash, I wouldn't be able to tell you, like, I guess it's kind of unfair to me to ask you that question without me probably not even being able to answer it wholeheartedly because I don't know if that 2 million is a lot of money for a player like him. You know what I mean? Um, I just don't know where Cole Bassett ranks amongst. Just to add context to some of the listeners, like I, I I'm more of like a Premier League type football fan. The MLS and the Rapids is something I picked up in the last few years. You know what I mean? So for me to try and gauge the quality of a player like Cole Bassett, I try to think to myself, okay, who can I compare him to? And then that's not fair, you know what I mean? So I don't really know. Like it's for me, bro, I'm used to like the 30, 40 million price tags that they put on any type of player that comes from insert club here that goes to insert club there. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So for me, monet the monetary value doesn't seem like a lot
yeah.
to me,
Well,
to be honest with you.
and I think everybody
We
kind of is
got
in that same boat.
yeah. We got how much for Georgi Mihailovic? Was it not like
Yeah,
9 mil?
yeah. I think it was
A
around
7,
eight.
7 to
Yeah,
9 or
seven to
something like
eight. I
that?
think
Yeah.
so. Yeah,
So
yeah, and
to me, when that happened, Crash, that was something that I said, okay, we're getting a nice paycheck. We're getting a nice chunk of change from that, homie. Um, but this Cole Bassett move, it just doesn't seem like it seems that and see, I guess this is the part where what you were saying definitely hits home. Maybe it was just a thing of it's not gonna work out, then let's just get what we could get for him. And that 2 whatever and change probably was the best thing that, the best scenario for everybody. And you said it like, yeah, Cole Bassett resonates with everybody, homie. He's somewhat, Mr. Rapids, if you will. You know what I mean? He's
mhm.
adds that homegrown. It was always gonna be a tough move, right, for a fan and Cole Bassett. His Instagram post was, it was a good one, bro. It's touching. He said all the right things, you know what I mean? And it's not like a player that came here from somewhere else and made this his home. This is his home. And now like he's gonna move somewhere else and make that his home. So I think it was just the best situation for everybody, homie. And like you said last episode, we get to see him opening night. So let's see what happens there, homie. Let's see if he doesn't come back to bite us in our ass because
Yeah,
he knows what it's like playing there.
yeah, for sure. No, it'll be interesting. Yeah, and I think when I look at just the money alone, it's lower than I'd want. But
Yeah.
I think I would assume that maybe the sell-on percentage is a little bit higher than maybe it normally would be, just in case he does, hit and moves on to Europe or something, which he still possibly could. But it'll be interesting. wish him the best, and hopefully it doesn't come until after the home opener.
Well, and this is and not to shit on our club whatsoever, but he's going to a bigger market, Crash. You know what I mean? There's gonna be more eyes on him. If he could hit the ground running there, and who knows what type of goals Cole Bassett has set for himself. Who knows what type of ambition he has. But obviously he's ready for another step. And he's going to a place, obviously there's gonna be more eyes on that team there. And look, all the best for Cole Bassett. I know not this last season, but the season before that, when we were getting down to the nitty-gritty of the season and we really needed him for playoff time, he was, I guess, if I remember correctly, he was out injured with an injury. And then the same thing happened again towards the end of last season. So, all the best. And yeah, with that, Crash, we kind of talk about getting some more money. You said this earlier on too. Um, we did some movements. We got rid of some international spots. Is that what you said? To kind of
Yeah.
acquire a bit of more money, some GAM, some GAM. And before we move on to this, Crash, because I'm a dummy, homie, I had to ask what GAM was and what it is. Because I didn't know, bro. And for those that don't know, it's basically like invisible money that you're able to spend. You can't buy beer, unfortunately, but you can use it for like to help pay. I guess there's a cap that we should pay a player, but then we can use that money to allocate it to pay off rosters, to pay off what signings and stuff like that. So it's
Yep.
money that we have in, I guess, the MLS bank. But it can come in handy when and if used properly, Crash.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts? What's your take? Anything you want to add to the fact that we just made some movements for that there as well?
Yeah, no, it definitely goes to show that Chicago really needed those slots bad for
Yeah.
that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with those two slots. But also, I thought it was interesting. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, it's the biggest GAM trade for international slots that's ever happened. So either the
Oh,
market is inflated pretty significantly on those, or Chicago just really needed them.
yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what that is. So for those who didn't catch the release, the Rapids did trade Chicago Fire for 2 international slots for 2026. So that reduces our ability to add more international players to the roster. We get $600,000 in GAM for 2026, and then another 250,000 in GAM for 2027. So a total of $850,000 worth of GAM over the next couple years, which is pretty amazing. I think, like you mentioned, GAM for us is just a flexible asset that the clubs can use to buy down salaries, or kind of help with the salary cap flexibilities. They can do interleague trades for GAM. So all kinds of different things. I think the key here is the benefit really is that, those international slots, you can only use them on players, right? If we're not planning on bringing in any of those international players, then GAM gives us a ton of opportunity to be flexible with how we spend it, where it goes, how it's applied to the team, which is great. So it just gives us a lot more flexibility when it comes to rosters. The interesting thing that I think is more to that point is that what are we going to use it for, right? Why would we be stashing all this GAM for players, or for buying down salary caps, when we don't have that problem right now? Like, we've got plenty of cap space. We just got rid of Maxu in the offseason, which was a big signing. We have a bunch of young center backs on the team, so they're not pulling a ton of cap space issues. We didn't sign any massive players or anything dramatic that would really put us into hot water. So now what are we doing with it, right? We got rid of Cole for cash. Now we have a bunch of GAM that's piled up. Where's it going? So I'm interested to see what these next moves are going to happen because it seems like, you know, Org might have his chef hat on and is starting to cook. Might be optimistic, or I might be, let down, but it's something seems to be brewing. So it'll be interesting to see what we do with those.
Bro, so I think it's a good thing to be able it's kinda like having, an ace up the sleeve, if you will. I was reading on that, and I can't remember, I was actually trying to pull it up right now, but does that money transfer over to the next season, or did I read that it doesn't and you need to use it? If you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
So,
I think
I
you
mean,
do.
hell
You can train. I think there might be some that you gets train. And I'm not an expert by any means. I'm just a a lowly supporter who kind of follows this loosely. But I think some of it might transfer over from year to year, but the majority of it has to be used within the year. So most of it goes to buying down players and cap space and allowing players to be a max TAM player, to buy down those things. So I think it's mostly used within the year.
it says, let me see here. It says GAM does carry over, but with some very MLS caveats. Um, let's see here. Yeah, I'm not really seeing what the caveat is, but it could be that the club are trying to cook something like you said, homie. Is the front office playing for the long-term game? We definitely don't know. Um, would you spend the money right now, or I mean,
Yes.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
get
Well, I mean,
yeah.
what we're missing personally, the way I look at the roster is, you know, there wasn't much change from last year, and I think it even got brought up in the press conference today. There are some new players on the team. Hamzat is officially with the club. He did his first media availability today, so we got a little insight to him. I think he's gonna, hopefully gonna be a good, solid player. And it seems like the coach is high on him. Um, so it'd be interesting to see, but I mean, between him and Dante Sealy and then Lucas Harrington in the back and Bryce Jamison, I mean, those are the four that come to mind outside of some of the young draft picks or R2 guys that are on the team. So there's not a whole lot of change that's happened on the team for the better. But there's been a lot of exits on the team. So there has to be
Mhm.
some additions that are done to the team, that increase quality. So I would say, yeah, spend it now. Let's get people in and sorted, because if we wait, the longer we wait, the more challenging it's going to be. And, if we have a rough start to the season, we wait till the summer window. This season, the way it's always been, we get to the summer window and it's most likely too late regardless. So, I think we ran into that problem last year, right? We got to the end, we tried to get guys in, it was too late, it took forever to get the players in. And then by that point they figured out the system, and we were scrapping along. All we needed was a point to get the playoffs this past year, and we couldn't even do that because, we weren't integrated. So, I don't know. I hope that they make these moves now. I would love to start the season with a consistent roster with, I would rather have minimal changes in the summer and make that a window of, oh, we have to make changes because something happened or we are lacking, rather than wait till summer and make changes because that's what we wanted to do. So use it now. Have a little in reserve just in case if something happens, but use it now to make you have the best roster going into the season possible is the way I'd look at it.
Crash, something that I've been wanting to ask you, homie, but it's just every time we chat, it just slips my mind. And now that you say kind of, we have to keep at this point, keep whatever players that we have, to keep the best roster possible and to add to it. Don't get me wrong. But something that you and I have chatted about now for honestly the longevity of our chats, homie, is how you, I guess not necessarily how you feel towards Hoffa, but towards the situation. You've always kind of been of the thought that like Am I wrong to say that, like, we're kinda lucky to have him and he's still here, bro? Like, we kind of both have thought that maybe he was gonna move on, but he's still here, bro. Does that surprise you that Hoffa is still a Rapids player? Because I know, like, at the towards the end of last season, um, we probably would have thought that he would be one of the first players off the ship, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
he's still here, bro. Are you surprised that the Rapids have been able to keep him? Because he was being sniffed about from a couple of these bigger clubs. I know there was some rumors from a club in Brazil. I think I even heard something about Monterrey in Mexico that and these are rumors, but still where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
Crash, am I wrong to say that, you've always kind of thought, not always, but since the end of the last season, you kind of thought that, Haka may had played his last game with the Rapids. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. No, and I did. I really thought that was the case. I do like him. I am happy he's still here. It's interesting too in that Matt Wells interview today. He did mention he's kind of making Hoffa
Yes.
play in a different position or what he's not accustomed to or been used to. So I will be really intrigued to see how he's got him playing, which would be interesting to see, especially with him alongside Paxton. But yeah, I think everybody was really expecting him to go in the offseason. I think he is a good player. He's shown he can play at a high level. I have felt bad for him to a degree because the system we played in did not provide him, or at least the system that he played in, last season and the past couple seasons, he didn't have the quality around him to help him play at his best. And so, even though he did play very well for the most part, and the struggles he had wasn't necessarily because he wasn't a shining star on the team. It was just that he didn't have any other shining stars around him to help support him. I think if Georgie wasn't in his best form, or our wingers weren't playing their best ball, like he was out on an island a lot of the times. And so when he got the ball, when he's able to play, like he's a just a fascinating, fun player to watch. So I'm happy they get to see him for another season, which is exciting. It seems to be that the front office and the coaches are happy that he's there and wanted him to stay. So I'm happy that he wasn't pushing him for a move because it did seem like he had um, some potential offers out there. If you watch, X and different posts, there's definitely still chatter with him being, thrown out there as a player that could be picked up by any of those teams. The other side of it is though the South American and Mexican windows aren't closed yet, if I'm not mistaken. So there is still potential for a move to happen at some point, but it does seem like Hoffa will be staying, which is, um, you know, hopefully he can adopt into the system really well. So we'll see how it plays out. But I would be happy to see him stay and see him play with some better
Yeah.
quality around him.
Well, I'm just gonna throw this out there, Crash. You can expect Rafa to be playing like Harry Kane next season. That's what he's really gonna be doing. He's gonna be balling it up, bro, being the next best striker this side of the world.
Let's go. Let's go. I'm
No,
all
no,
for it.
all jokes aside, all jokes aside, I really feel like this system and I don't even know what system we're gonna be playing, but I really feel like the high press, that front football suits suits Hoffa's game. A lot of times he was dropping back to try and help the defense out as much as he could. So I really think that he's probably bought into this, if not, just as much, if not more than the rest of these players, because you know, like Matt well said, he's probably got like some crazy little vision that he could do with Hoffa. And yeah, I'm all for it, bro. I'm all for it. We need to work on the stutter step penalty, but apart from that, homie, I think Hoffa's got it all, bro, and he's definitely got the passion, and you could tell he just enjoys wearing the burgundy kit, homie. You could just tell he has passion for it.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
I agree. I think
and he looks bought in too, Crash, in the videos that we're seeing, like the little pieces that we're seeing of him on these clips, on the Instagram clips. Like you said, another one of these players that we need to be looking bought in and does look bought in, Crash. Sorry to cut you off, homie.
no, yeah, no, you're good. I agree. I think that's the biggest thing is getting that buy-in on the system. I was just gonna mention, I know you'd say we're not sure what the system's gonna be, as far as formation wise, but Matt did mention in the interview today about really focusing on the two center backs, two attacking fullbacks, and overlapping wingers and things. So likely, we're looking at a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 system that we kind of expected based on, the rosters and things we've seen out there. So yeah, I think, all of that does still suit um Hoffa. I think the high intensity, that's really where I think Hoffa shined was, when he's able to play on that front foot aggressively. So it'll be interesting to see, I think, you know, the aggressive, pressing aggressively after the loss, adapting, their press to their opponents, I think really helps, you know, Hoffa play at his best. It'll be interesting to see how he shifts. That was the big key for me. What Matt said about Hoffa that I'm interested to see, and the same thing with Yappy. Like, how is he going to really incorporate both of those guys in the system? Are they going to
Mhm.
play? Is Yappy going to be a winger? Is Hoffa going to play in a different role? It'll be interesting. Maybe Hoffa's going to play as a 10 and Yappy's going to play as a 9. It'll be really interesting at the end of the day how that system shakes out. I'm excited to see it. But I think
Fuck yeah, homie. I
they're
can't
going to
wait.
have some
I can't
good
wait, Crash.
good attacking pieces. So I'm excited to see how you know the attacking side of things definitely lacked it. We lacked it at the end of the season, and I don't think it was because of the quality of our attacking players that we had. It was just the lacking of the support around them, which I'm hoping that we've figured out. So I'm excited to see how it shakes out.
Yeah. Bro, me too, homie. I'm pumped, bro. I cannot wait for that first game to get a good glimpse at what our team looks like, homie. I'm just hoping that they're soaking it all up right now, bro. Just soaking up as much as that knowledge as they can, as much as that system as they can. So, when we get that first display of what's been going on, homie, we're left with a good taste in our mouths. There was a good question going back to the media availability, a good question on the systems part. Someone asked, are you gonna be and I don't remember verbatim, but he's like, are you gonna be afraid or not afraid to be tactically flexible, to be able to change the formation for some games and some games go a different route. And he answered that one straight up too and said, you know what, sometimes like basically, yeah, like you have to do that. You can't just be one way. And I think what you were kind of saying caveats that, bro. We probably won't just be married to one formation. And this is something that we've seen, the previous manager do as well. We had to do a lot, especially this last season. Last season, for sure, we've seen tons of different variations of our formation. So um it's good to hear that the gaffer is, aware of situational I guess situational awareness and will know, I said this a lot last season, different horses for different courses when it comes time to different opponents. Because it is, bro. Each opponent brings its own trickiness when it comes to these MLS teams, and some of these teams we will be playing twice. So we have to get used to that. Um, and it's a different league, so I'm definitely excited. I know last time we talked, it was like 30 days and counting until we're back at the dick watching the Burgundy boys, and it's even less now, my homie. How you feeling, Crash? Talk to me, my homie. I'm pumped up already.
Yeah, no, I'm too. I think I'm excited. I'm excited to see some more preseason scrimmaging from the team to just kind of get some little bit more insight here and there, just to get a feeling of like, are we gonna have a chance? Or is this working? So, I think it's tough going into the season with optimism. We're always optimistic and hopeful because we want to be as fans, right? We want our team to be, dominating everyone and winning every game because why not? That's fun. But also history has kind of proven otherwise for us. So we tend to get off to a rocky start, and it'll be interesting to see if we can get off on the right foot. And I'm excited. I think, we've got our first match away, right? To start the season, and then we're back home
Yeah.
after that following week. So we're only a couple weeks away, which is exciting, but also kind of terrifying all at the same time with, not knowing what we don't know.
Yeah. Oh man, absolutely. Well, Crash, just to start winding down, homie, we didn't really talk too much about the newer player that we got, Hamzat, and I won't even try and go with the last name. I know he did pronounce it for us. Crash, want to give it a try?
If I'm not mistaken, it's Hamzat Oheran, or whatever French
Right.
version of that is. I'm not a good French accent person, but I think it's Oheran.
Uh,
And yeah, it was nice. It was good that I'm glad he's in training. I'm glad he's there with the team. He seems hungry. Wells really seems to like him. I think he's, understanding tactics and getting in there. I did think it was interesting that um, that Matt did mention he, despite his being able to, work with his personal trainer, that he's physically behind. So does that mean that the team is physically better because of the training they had? Is it because he's just lacked that? I don't know. But I took it as the team has really put in the work to be physically better, and he's got to catch up, which I actually enjoyed and was happy to hear. But yeah, he's he talked about his kind of playing style and who he is. Seems like an interesting character. I'm excited to get to know him more throughout the season and see him play. But it's nice that we finally get one of our bigger signings of the offseason in with the team.
It's good to see him incorporated in there. And I think I heard as well that like that he had been given something to be able to study the what the I almost said he was given a playbook to study the
Yeah.
playbook, but I guess in that sense, translated to soccer terms, he was given the book to try and get acclimated to it. And yeah, he's getting already incorporated into the team. He's gonna be wearing the number 8, taking Oliver Larraz's shirt, wearing the number 8. I mean, look, we obviously don't know much about this guy. Do you think they see him more as a box to box number 8? Or I mean, when what I thought he was gonna be more of a 6,
Yeah.
but you know,
Yeah, I don't.
what are your thoughts, bro? Just basically off of what we've seen and heard.
Yeah, based on his playing style and how he's talked, he definitely seems of he even said it, I think, a destroyer. So he really is more of a natural 6 than it would be an 8. I think 8
Yeah,
just was the number that was available to him, and that's the one he took, and that's fine with me. I mean, numbers are. I mean, let's be honest, Paxton probably would have
absolutely.
taken number 8 if he had the chance when it was available, but Ollie had it, right? And so I think that's just kind of how it happens. And once you sell a couple jerseys, you're not changing numbers. So so I think it's
Yeah.
just the way it is. Um, um, but I'm excited to see him out there. It'll be interesting. It would be nice. And I think he's got some competition with Josh Atencio at that position. Or maybe not. Maybe they've shifted around. So it'll be interesting how it all shakes out. I really do hope our defensive support there really locks in. Um, I think he even mentioned in his conversation with the team or in the conference that he's not much of a goal scorer, but he's definitely he can if he needs to, but he's the one there to help the defensive side of the perspective. So I don't know. It's something we've needed, and hopefully it really is something that fills out and he gets the minutes because any D mid we've had in the past has not played or seen the field. It seems like so. So I'm excited to see him and get in the starting lineup.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm super stoked to see him as well. Looks like a big girthy fella as well. So it's gonna be nice to have a nice solid tree trunk there to help shore shit up there in the midfield.
Yep, absolutely.
Crash, another update we could talk about before wrapping up is Adam Beaudry going out on loan again. This time he's been loaned to Loudoun United. Anything that you know about that, Crash? Do you know the team? Are you versed in the USL much?
No, not overly informed from the USL side of things, but Box State Footy did put out a post on X the other day, just saying that Adam's likely to go out on loan. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was who he was with. Was he with Switchbacks? I think a little bit.
Yeah,
Um, I think
think
we did
so,
have
right?
another. I think we had another player that did go out to Loudoun. I think, wasn't it Jackson Travis? I think was out with Loudoun on loan last season a little bit. And so, yeah, it seems like a team that the Rapids are familiar with. And I think end of the day, this makes the most sense. They re-signed Nico for another year or two with some options there. So, and he proved last season that he was definitely our hard number two in that position behind Zach. So, um, and Adam is a good goalkeeper, and it makes sense for him to be getting minutes, not just sitting on on the bench or third team. And he needs more minutes outside of R2, which Zach Campanola, another homegrown, is kind of hard taking that spot. So having those two guys not getting minutes isn't going to be good. And Adam definitely needs that at a higher level, which I think he's definitely going to get from the USL side of things. So yeah, last year, he had 11 appearances with R2, I think, 6 with switchbacks and 1 with the first team. So he's definitely not going to get that with the first team this year, and he's only 19 years old, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken. So, he needs the minutes and at a higher competition. So I hope he has a good loan spell over there with them, and then comes back when he's ready.
Well, I even remember last season he was getting some call ups to his respected division, right? To the national team. I think he
Yeah,
was doing under 19s or something like that, or under 17s or something like that. But he
yeah.
was getting called up to his level national team. So we've got a good keeper there in Beaudry. So it's better to send him out on loan, Crash, than to just have him sitting there stagnant. And you're absolutely right what you said, bro. Nico Hansen last season kind of took his opportunity and made that spot, that two spot his. Like, and he's not a bad two to have. So we'll see what happens with Beaudry out on loan. I guess as any Rapids fan will get any type of information on their Instagram feeds or on X feeds if anything happens with him.
Yep.
And then also real fast, Crash, the Rapids, this is something that I didn't know. We'll be back. We're out of Leagues Cup this year and into the US Open. Weird, bro. What the hell happened there, Crash? Is
Uh,
there a reason why we're out of Leagues Cup? Did we choose not to play it, or did we just like
I think,
mathematically not qualified through some ratings BS or
yeah,
what?
I think how the MLS does it is they're putting their top, or like the higher end or the top end teams in the Leagues Cup, and more their lower table teams into the U.S. Open Cup. So I think it is based on placement to a degree.
Mm,
I'm not 100% sure behind that, but I think, if I remember correctly, that's how they do it. I'm excited for it, to be honest. I think, the Leagues Cup is fun. I think it's nice they get to play against some of the Liga MX teams, and creates
yeah.
a fun atmosphere, at the stadium and things like that. But US Open Cup is a real opportunity for us to, try to win a trophy. And I think, the way it's set up now too is it's a good opportunity for us as well. So I think new manager, new opportunity, it gives us a good shot for that, and I'm excited to see it come to fruition.
It just occurred to me that that cup would that be the equivalent to the FA Cup in England, right? You have like
Yeah.
the Football Association's Cup with, I guess, throughout all the associations of football. That's the same thing, right? The Lamar Hunt
Yeah.
US Open Cup is a competition with any is it any level of
Yeah, it
football? Is
is.
it states or something like
Yeah,
that?
so even down to the, the kinda almost the rec league kinda side of it, right? There's the lower tiers that, can qualify into it and play, and you can just as long as you're winning, you can work your way up, just like it is in the FA. So I
Yeah.
think it's a little bit different, to a degree, but it's still very similar. So anybody has the opportunity, which is
Right.
cool. But yeah, so, it's the
Well,
closest thing that we have to the FA Cup for sure.
yeah, no, was it what I was getting at with that is we have an English gaffer in charge now who's gonna want to win the equivalent of that FA Cup. So why can't the Rapids win this win
Absolutely.
this? I was gonna say FA Cup, this US Cup, man. Look, a trophy's a trophy, man. We'll take it. Crash, we're kind of winding down to the nitty-gritty, my homie. Was there anything that, maybe you wanted to talk about that we didn't, or
No, I
anything
think
that has popped up since?
No, the only thing I was gonna mention really is, looking into next week. As we start getting more people listening and as more engagement, just let us know, what you want to hear, what you want to talk about. If you want to join, let us, reach out. We'd love to have some different voices on throughout. But I just had one question for you and the listeners out there. We can really chat about it next week. But it's just, what's one move that you feel the team needs to make? Is it what position, what moves, maybe it's multiple, that you feel we need that are realistic that we think that the front office is actually going to make, I think I heard rumors of the past couple days, like Ronaldo's coming to MLS, there's no way in hell he's coming to Colorado. That's for sure. But what is that move you feel we need? What would make us relevant into the market? What would fill a stadium? And I think those are the keys that I keep thinking about in my mind is, what solves kind of that problem that, gets people into the seats every week. And so I'm just curious to see what everybody else thinks.
Good way to wrap that up. Look, my homies, we are on any platform on most platforms you get your podcasts to include Spotify, Apple Listen, and just the big ones.
Yep.
We're on Instagram, on X. We have a YouTube channel at the Confluence Podcast. And remember, try and add something afterwards, the Confluence Pod, the Rapids Confluence Pod, and it definitely help you to find us out. Crash, there was one comment there that said, I like it because it's two fans like me that are talking kids that don't pretend to be these know-it-alls. That's the vibe we're going for, my homie, right there, right? Just a couple of homies that are just talking about the team that they enjoy to watch. So if that's you, a like-minded person, and we have homies in the community, reach out, come say what's up, hop on the stream. You know what I
Yep,
mean?
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I will say thank you to everybody who reached out, or at least, you gave us a little bit of an applaud there for us to taking the leap. We did have a really good response, and we appreciate everybody who is listening. And we hope you continue. It's going to be a fun season. It's going to be a long season. And so you get to hear from us more. I think we've talked about multiple different ways to reach out. We do want to do some live streams that we've done in the past, getting some fans on in the chat and chatting about things. We have the first away day of the season, which we'll look at our schedules. It'd be great to do a watch along and have everybody join in and just have a community that whether we're on video watching or just chatting in the chat. um, that's what we want. We want to build a community that we can, have those post game recaps and hashes, have an opportunity to celebrate together or have an opportunity to, complain and kind of vent if we need to at the same time. We know we're going to have both of those throughout the season. So at the end of the day, it's a community for all of us supporters to engage and have fun with each other and connect more.
Yeah, spot on, my homie. Well, I really enjoyed the second episode, Crash. I'm sure you did too, my homies. And we look forward to hearing back Crash left you guys with some homework. I'm going to get on that myself, my homies, and we'll catch you guys on the next stream. Up the pits.
Yeah. My heart, C38, LeoCoys and KTK. Locals on the fly causing turbulence, causing waves on our way to the confluence. New voice for the fans, from the pitch to the stands. My heart, locals in the South Bank lads. LeoCoys and the whole meat crash. Hold up, what's this? A raft on the water to the confluence. Yeah, it's trance and banter, rhymes and laughter. Head to the waters if it's piss you're after. C38, the time is now. Locals on the drums to hold it down. Like the stream and 2 5 stars. The mile high hot spur and crash the car. Shit.